discussion, watchmaking discussion with one of our esteemed guests. We love especially digging out some of the independent watchmakers that have not been necessarily exposed out there. And today we have a great example because we have a friend that has been telling us about his journey in launching his own independent watch brand. But we have never taken yet so far live on the limited edition. And as a matter of fact, it's not been live many times at all out there. So we'll have the privilege today to a little bit unveil and unleash a story that is still very much unknown to most of the watch collectors. And I'm happy and proud to be able to do that as we do at the Independents with our editor, Johnny McElleron from Ireland, who should be with us in a matter of seconds. And
hey,
Johnny,
Pietro.
I have to thank you in particular for this one because obviously we got to know Martin Klocke, our guest today, by participating to the International Festival of Time in Waterford that you have brilliantly organized, and where Sherpa Watches had a very good visibility, a very good presence, and I think surprised quite a few collectors in that occasion in particular.
Definitely. Firstly, just to start off, Pietro, with that lovely bit of music at the start, I thought you were doing a little bit of MC in there, and it was sounding very, very cool and down with the kids there. So
we're getting better. We're getting better with the time, hopefully.
That is as slick as you could ask for. So yeah, very good, Pietro. Yeah, Martin Klocke. Martin contacted me a few weeks before the Festival of Time in Waterford last September and said, look, if you're interested, I am available, could bring Sherpa Watches to the event. And it was brilliant to have him along, and really and truly an eye-opener too, and a little bit of an insight into what Sherpa watches are, because it's more than just a watch. There's a whole philosophy there and a real benevolent kind of a vibe coming off Sherpa watches, as well as celebrating an absolutely classic design from the 1950s, which was popular in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and fell into decline until Martin said, enough of this old nonsense, and we're going to breathe a bit of life back into this design and bring them back. And well, let this man tell the story himself. Welcome, Pietro.
Welcome, Martin.
Hi, Pietro, Johnny. Nice to meet you again.
Good to see you as well, Martin. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. And I have to correct you just from the start. I'm sorry, but we actually met in Geneva, in the lower, in the basement of ACHI, first time at the bar.
No, I wasn't there.
That was at the bar. You just said it.
Yeah. And then it unfolded. But I have to say, to be able to appear at the Festival of Time in Waterford was really an honor for me, especially, considering the small lineup and who was there. And I felt really, welcomed as a family by people I thought, whoa, usually they wouldn't talk to me, I thought at the beginning. But it was a really amazing festival, really well done, super atmosphere, really nice people. I mean, the exhibitors and the guests are really nice. So I can only recommend anyone to come there.
Yeah,
of course, I think I had a feeling that the Festival of Time really gave me the right perception about Sherpa watches, which before was obviously related to when we met in Geneva. I had a few drinks. You showed me the watches. I tried it on my wrist as well. I still have the shots of that. I kind of I put my head around what you were trying to do, listening to your story, and we're gonna try to guide our audience and our followers into understanding what was your thought process at the beginning, where you come from, what was your background. So for a start, I would like to ask, who is Martin Klocke, and how the heck did Martin Klocke go into watches so passionately in the first place?
It's a very good question. Sometimes you get the call and you don't know why and where it's coming from. So I have no background in watchmaking. Actually, when I started the company, I thought back, and I had once in my life, I had a very difficult time at home. I didn't get on with my parents. I came back from England. I was 1 year at school in England, actually Northern Wales. Came back at home. I had problems. I wanted to leave school early, and I thought about watchmaking, to be honest. I dropped the idea and never came back to that idea. And then 2011 or 12, I was looking for a nice present for my wife, and I was looking for a watch for her. But I'm not the guy doing the, let's say, mainstream watches. So I was researching, and I found on eBay, still a good site back then to look for watches, a NOS Enicar Sherpa Lady Dive watch, which I bought just to be surprised when it arrived how small 29 millimeters are. But then she liked it. I liked the design, 2 crowns, internal bezel. And then I started researching, and I found out there is a lot more to discover about Enicar. Really nice men's watches, which I then bought. First, just to have a watch, which is like a partner watch for the watch of my wife. And then I didn't have excuses anymore. I bought more. And after a while of, collecting a few of watches, I thought, why is that brand not around anymore? Why are those models not around? Why do we have the Submariner and
Sorry,
the edition?
if I can stop you there, at that time it was merely your liking of the watches, or was those already the story that was with those
it was
watches?
just the liking, the style. I had several brands which I liked at that time, like Enicar, Roma actually also made really nice, brilliant watches, also chronographs. I liked some classics from Germany also, but the old ones only. I collected vintage. And then I asked myself, what about Enicar? And then a book appeared by Martijn van der Veen. It's called Time for a Change. Really nice guy, super good book. It's just appearing in the 3rd edition. And well, I picked up my copy because it was a self-funded book appearing, funded by, I think, was it? Yeah, one of the funding sites. And I picked it up because it's 1 hour from here driving to Netherlands. And I picked it up. I talked to him, and at that time already, I had the idea maybe I could bring back the Sherpa series of watches. And I took him as an inspiration. I talked to him, and he really said, yeah, go for it if you like that. And yeah, basically the first thing I did was I wrote because the old Enicar company went bankrupt in the 80s. And the rights were bought by a Hong Kong holding, and they founded Enicar Watch Co., which is still in let's say in function at the moment. But they unfortunately never brought back the classics, the Sherpa series, like it is.
Which arguably probably the most relevant pieces when you're talking about vintage Enicar pieces, yeah?
Yes, also amongst collectors, they're the most famous ones, and sometimes they're really, really good, like the chronograph series or the dive watches.
We should just take a look at the design that we're talking about.
Yeah, so I mean the design is very special, and I mean that watch is very special because you see a lot of dual crown compressor watches around, or super compressor watches. But this one, like the Ultra Dive and the OPS, the ones I decided on to bring back, they are special in that sense that they are the only ones with crown guards. So in the 1960s, 70s, there were loads of double crown compressor watches, but none of them looked like that.
And I had one for a while. It was the Cultra Master Mariner Barracuda, and again, it was just there's something about the compressor crown, the rotating bezel, the subcrystal rotating bezel, and it's a little bit different. Beautiful. I love it. I'm a mad fan of these watches.
For those because obviously you have introduced a big element, which is the compressor, and the compressor was obviously linked to the Sherpa story that went with those vintage models by Enicar. So can we break down why a compressor was important in its functionality and how the compressor has built the legend of the Sherpa people as well, that were obviously famously users of these mechanical timepieces?
So basically what's happening with these watches is that there are actually 2 timelines coming together, maybe 3. So 2 timelines in the sense 2 companies are involved. One is the Enicar SA, the original Enicar company. And the other one is EPSA, Alvin Piqueret from Bascour. Alvin Piqueret was the biggest case maker at that time for cases, especially water resistant watches. They have over 200 patents on water resistance and cases and crowns, etc. And they were the ones who invented the compressor system. They also invented the internal turning bezel, the internal dive bezel, which is often confused with compressor principle, but it's basically a different patent. So they invented, they invented the compressor patent because at that time, many people had problems with the sealings, the gaskets. So the gaskets were quite sensitive at that time, and they used to fade away under pressure. And the longer they are under pressure, they would compress and give way to water. And this over a longer time. And Alvin Piqueret said, okay, why do we have the gasket under compression all the time? They wear and it's damaging the gasket over time. Why don't we only have the pressure on the gasket when we're diving down? So they invented a case back which would compress into the gasket when you have pressure on the outside. So basically, when you go down, the case back is pressed more and more into the gasket, increasing the sealing pressure. When you dive up again, it's back to normal. And the normal case would be, let's say, given because there's some spring loading or there's some pre-compression on the gasket, so you don't fail while having a shower. So that's one thing. And then they have the same system inside of the crowns. Usually, I didn't know before. I mean, the compressor and super compressor principle, they are known for the case back. Many people know, or at least it's known. Also the dual crowns. But that the crowns in themselves have a special system inside was actually not known for me until I did the research. And you can see here, we have on the case back, we have this old 1940s, 50s dive helmet. And that was actually the original logo for EPSA, for the company, for the cases. And because we take up the history of EPSA as well as the Sherpa series, and the companies also went bankrupt in the 1980s. The logo was available, and we registered the logo, and we took up again the story for.
Yeah, you can tell the exact and complete story, which is very important. Those instruments were so professionally made and so reliable at the time that they were used in some legendary expeditions, no? And that's the big part of the story that's unleashed under your eyes when you started to dig deep about why these watches were looking so cool.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the expedition feature was related to a 1956 expedition to Mount Everest and Lhotse, shortly after the first ascent by Hillary. There was a Swiss expedition, and they were sponsored by Enicar. And at that time, the Sherpa name didn't exist in watchmaking. And during the expedition, they found out, like most expeditions find out now, that the main backbone of any expedition to the 8,000 meters is made by the Sherpa. And the Sherpa is now like a word for people doing the load carrying, etc. But basically, it's a people, a tribe, a Tibetan tribe living in Nepal, and they're living in these areas around the Mount Everest, and they're really capable mountaineers. I would say nearly by nature. I mean, somehow they are. They have a very good accommodation to the height, and but after this expedition by Swiss mountaineers, the Enicar found out and said, okay, we will name our most robust watch after these people. And it was a success, the first Sherpa's watch. And then they made a whole series of about 20 watches. Most of them were dive watches, but not all of them. Some GMTs, some chronographs, some dive chronographs, some GMT chronographs. And so quite a big of story.
So it's taken you 10 years now, give or take, to link all the dots and to find the mission of what you wanted to accomplish. You must feel like a bit like a Sherpa in that sense. Yeah.
So basically, 2011, I met Enicar as an original company from the 1960s, 70s. But it wasn't until
the new Enicar.
2017 or 18 that I really thought I would like to do something new in my life. And I thought, these watches are my passion. Why don't I change into watchmaking? And I actually wrote a letter to the new Enicar.
Yeah. So not the Enicar SA, which was the original company back in the 60s. Yeah.
Hong Kong holding, and I never got a reply. And then I've got a business consultant as a friend, and he always tells other people what to do. And he said, Martin, then you do it yourself. And I thought, I mean, I'm a mechanical engineer. I was born in Switzerland, but that's the only link to the Swiss watch industry that I have. And I thought, no, it's not possible. I've never done that. But it kept in my mind as some kind of idea. I looked for, the possibilities that I had. I found that in Europe, the name Sherpa was not registered. So I did all the research regarding IP, trademarks, etc., etc. So everything looked good. I got some counseling. And then I started with the idea. So I researched, and I researched about EPSA, the technology, what was so special about these Sherpa series watches. And I found out that, they have a special case system for Enicar. EPSA invented some kind of bayonet system, which I brought back also. The bayonet system is like a camera lens. Basically, it's not screwed in. The crowns were special. So everything was quite unique. And I had to research. I had to dig up my French because all the documents that I could find in Switzerland and elsewhere were French. Like most of the watch industry in the Jura is still French speaking, even if they can speak German, mostly.
Was Enicar SA based in La Chaux-de-Fonds, or was it?
No, they were based in Lengnau, which is
Lengnau, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the start of the, let's say, they have dual language.
Yeah,
but
EPSA, near Biel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but EPSA was basically was in Basse-Cour, which is French speaking.
Yeah.
So Piqueret EPSA was based in Basse-Cour, and all the documents about these things, especially all the technical stuff, which was really deeply hidden in some Swiss archives, was in French. So I had to dig up my school French and dust it off and try to communicate.
What a story! And Johnny, I'm pretty amazing. The more I listen to this, the more I learn, really, because as I said before, I wasn't particularly familiar with the story of both Enicar and Sherpa and the modern days Sherpa watches. But there seems to be everything, Johnny. Functionality that was how can I say, paramount back in the days, and is still very much identifying the timepieces for what they are. There are very strong aesthetics as well, which are reminiscent of vintage watches, but with a definite contemporary look. It just doesn't feel like a straight re-edition, and a story, Johnny, that is compelling. So it seems to have a little bit of everything.
I think having spent time with Martin, it's a very authentic story, and it comes from the heart. And because I think sometimes histories can be kind of fabricated to fit in with a story of a watch brand, or indeed any kind of brand. But yeah, quite often with in particular with watches, because there are a lot of old brands that fell into like any car in the 80s into bankruptcy, and weren't able to survive the onslaught of the quartz revolution. And so I think we have seen, I know I have certainly seen brands that have been revived, so to speak, but the story doesn't always ring true as passionately as Martin's story does. And just even the way that the chance discovery of coming across the brand and identifying this incredible design and taking it further and further, going to find out into the EPSA archives to get an understanding of the technical specifications of the cases and how they were made, and how the problem of the gasket deterioration was overcome and addressed and improved. There is, as I said to you, it's a very, to me, authentic story. And having seen the watches, Pietro, they really are highly attractive, as well as having that functionality, and
Absolutely.
you go anywhere watches really.
Absolutely. I love the again the fact that there's a clear inspiration to the past glory. At the same time, they look very contemporary, and the way you have managed to create a contrast that looks really contemporary once again is unique, Martin. So well done on that. Talking about the horological propositions, so Martin, there are basically two main collections. We are privileged to be official retailers for Sherpa watches. You can find on the limited edition the Haute-Rive and the OPS as well. Could you please go a little bit more in details on these two collections and what they offer in modern days timekeeping?
So one of the reasons, as you said, why I chose those models from the past was that it was always apparent to me that, of course, they have something very special for the area. So you can see they are vintage, also the old ones, but they also have a very timeless design that can survive even in modern days. So what I did was I brought back the design quite authentically, but I improved on all the things that I could think of improving for today's market. For example, I changed from plexi, of course, to sapphire. I've got a very complex domed sapphire coming from Switzerland, so the raw sapphire up to the end. It's all done in Switzerland. It has a very nice shape, and we also managed by special measures that we avoid the, let's say, whitish glow of death around the sapphire, which you can see with some watches where they change from plexi to sapphire. All the components are made in Germany or in Switzerland, so that's a special feature I was taking care of, because I wanted to bring it back in style. The watches from the past were made in Switzerland only, with all components coming from Switzerland. So yes, both of them are dive watches. Both of them are real compressor watches. Both of them have real compressor crowns, which are not screwed down, but they have a special system which tightens them onto the tube the more you dive down. Both of them are certified to 200 meters according to the ISO 6425, the depth rating. Both have stainless steel cases, the OPS and the Ultradive. The Ultradive at the moment is only available as a polished stainless steel. The OPS is available as LDLC coated model, and also now together with the real-time show, my collab partner, TRTS, Alan and Rob. That's one. So they inspired me, or they said, okay, Martin, why don't do the DLC not just in black, but also in stainless steel, but bead blasted. And well, at first I thought, whoa, that's the naked naked OPS, something is missing, but basically I knew somehow this would really work. And so that's why
It
we
really
decided
does.
to bring it out.
Can we explain how you use a compressor in modern days?
So basically, for me, because the watches were originally compressor watches, and compressor watches doesn't mean you have two crowns and a turning bezel. Compressor means that you have the special sealing system, which was invented by EPSA, which means the case back is not screwed in like that, like the standard way, but it is quite, let's say, in the bearings quite flexible. So of course there's the pre-compression of the gasket to make it watertight, but the deeper you go, the more compressed the case gets onto the gaskets. That's one feature of compressor watches. And the other one are crowns which are not screwed down. So easy to use, but still the deeper you go, the more compressed gets the gasket onto the tube, so making it enough watertight for more than 200 meters. So that's the compressor feature that I like. And I wanted to create something real. I mean, if it looks like a compressor watch, I want it to be like a compressor watch. So that's why I chose to do it like that. I was also, I wasn't getting tired, but I thought so many watches are brought back from the past that look like compressor watches, but they only copy the look, and everything else under the hood is standard, which is okay. in a way, but for me as an engineer, because I also like the old idea that actually you use water pressure to make your watch tighter. So you use the enemy against himself, like in Aikido, basically. It's something I thought so brilliant, such a brilliant idea, shouldn't just be, dead and forgotten. And I thought, well, it should work, and I wanted to bring it back. So that's something these new watches also feature.
So German and Swiss design, German and Swiss parts. When we talk about the cases, the dials, what did you choose in terms of the movement configuration, and how does it work fine for you on a compressor feature like this?
Okay, so this is something I'm very honest here. I sometimes from some people get a bit of I don't know what you saw, bad wording, or I don't know, criticism that I only use a Selita movement. It's a topic that comes up every time. So basically, we choose a Selita top or premium configuration. It's gold plated like the old movements that Enicar had back then in the 1960s and 70s. It's the highest configuration regarding decoration. We have our own rotor, and as you can see here on the watch, we have something engraved which is called Mantramatic, and that relates also to the Sherpa story. So I wanted to bring back Sherpa watches, and I not just wanted to print the name on the watch. First, I wanted to give them back something, because usually they do not get the credit for what they do. So some of the profit that I make is given back to two projects in the Sherpa countries. One is rebuilding a school, and the other one is collecting garbage around Mount Everest. I have the information on my webpage if you're interested. So they collect garbage around the Sagarmatha next national park and recycle it, etc. So two really nice projects in the Sherpa countries.
Garbage is a big issue related to the expeditions.
Yes, also, of course, a lot of tourism leaves garbage, and the Everest is in a remote area where there are no roads going anywhere, so it's very difficult to get rid of the garbage. And the Sherpas usually do expeditions just to get rid of garbage once in a year at least. So I think that was something really good to support as a general trend in local tourism. And then I also thought, okay, Sherpa on the watch, what can I do inside of the watch to establish a relationship, to make it just not an alien name on the dial that I use. And basically for me, while researching on the project, I found out that the Sherpa were actually Tibetan people, which I didn't know before. And they are Tibetan-Buddhist. And I was quite happy to hear that, because actually I am Tibetan-Buddhist too. So I felt a heartfelt relation to them. So I thought, what can I do? And I had the idea that something that I could integrate into a watch would be the typical Tibetan prayer wheel. So around the Mount Everest area or the Himalayas, you see many Tibetans either chanting or recitating the mantra, which is like a positive vibration into the world, or they're turning those prayer wheels, especially old Tibetans do that. They're also spreading the good vibration into the world. So I had the idea to put that into a watch. Nobody has done that before, and it's also very, very small. The wheel you see there, the seconds wheel, is around 7 millimeters in diameter, and the mantra that we actually were capable of engraving on that with a femto laser is so small that it's basically close to the optically possible or physically possible at the moment with the femto laser. And I also talked to one of the high teachers of my Buddhist lineage to ask if this is, a valid idea or just stupid marketing to sell watches. And he said, no, it's valid if you do it the right way. And he corrected my drawings because I made some mistakes. So then I started researching how to do this. And it took us more than half a year to get it right, because it's so small to get this engraved. It's not so easy. And I found a laser engraver in Solingen, which is the best known town in Europe, or at least in Germany, for high quality knives. And they are usually engraving high quality knives with lasers. And well, they just happened to like the project, and they happen to have the most recent laser generation in house, a femto laser. So in the end, we were successful of doing that. So we have the second wheel and the escape wheel, both engraved with probably the smallest mantra engraving in the world, I would say.
Very, very good story. Johnny, have we mentioned in the past on how fascinated we are by the attitude and the approach that most independent watchmakers have to, of course, try to achieve commercial success, if you like, but first and foremost, leave a mark, leave a trace, leave a legacy, and revamp a legacy in this case in the most organic way. I'm really impressed, as I guess you are too.
Yeah, well, what Martin has been doing here is not just revamping a style. He also, with the Nepalese, Tibetan, Buddhist stamping or laser engraving, it really injects his story into the whole concept as well. And it is remarkable the lengths that you go to do this work on a component or two components, Pietro, that, let's face it, are never going to be seen because they're behind with Martin's watches, with the compressor watches. It's not a sapphire caseback. It's a solid steel caseback. We've already seen there's another image of it there. And so this is hidden away forever, but it carries with it that the movement Martin has called the mantra-matic. And so it's got these really positive, life-affirming vibes coming out, even though you can't see it. So you're carrying around with you, if you like, on your wrist, this kind of charm. And it's a really wonderful idea. Just a wonderful personalization that Martin has injected into the whole concept. Yeah, I think it's a compelling story altogether.
Shall we go back as well for a second to the slight, I wouldn't say negative, but like, doubt that Martin has just stressed about the movement configuration being obviously a top grade Sellita gold plated. But, if we are then going to talk about where these timepieces are priced, and with all the details in the materials and the configuration and the making that we have discussed about, that is purely made in Germany and Switzerland. I think, Johnny, I don't know what you feel, but I don't feel uncomfortable at all with the idea of a Sellita in here.
Not in the slightest. People want to collect watches. Not everybody who is a watch collector is a high earner. Ordinary people have as much sense of a taste and style as, and probably, I think, actually more so. If you look what super wealthy people spend their money on, sometimes you go like some of the luxury motors, for example, that they are, for me, an acquired taste. Just because you have it doesn't mean that you've got style, And so for me, for anyone to be able to access the Sherpa range, having a Sellita movement, it's perfectly fine with me. I am not expecting a mechanical work of art. I am not expecting something that has been hand finished to within an inch of its life. To me, I want a watch that I can wear, a watch that when I'm out somewhere, I can look at it and I get a buzz because I like the appearance of it.
Especially a watch that is supposed, and his legacy is about being out there in the adventures, in the opens, and just perform more than anything else. So that's, if you like, an identity that is very good to have preserved and to have carried forward. I guess, Martin.
Yeah, and the other thing is that people don't see is that we just don't slap a Sellita SW200/1 into the case and that's it. Basically, we take the movement, we get it from Sellita, we take off the rotor which is coming from, we take it apart half, take out both wheels, put the wheels, I transport it to my laser engraver, we engraving the wheels, we put it back, we make our own rotor, also gold plated, put it onto the movement. The rotor also includes good wishes, by the way, may all beings be happy and free.
Yeah, we noticed that. Very good, yeah.
And that's a different kind of Celita movement that you have in the end. It's not your standard Celita movement. We put a lot of work into it. Like all the details of the watches, we put a lot of work into many details. So so I feel quite comfortable. I just get this, you know, many times, especially by keyboard warriors on big platforms, when they see the price and they just read Celita and that's it. And then, okay, I get these kind of comments. But if people are on the booth, for example, if they see the watches, if they hear the story, if they know what's inside, what we do with the glass, with the case, everything, with the components, well, then you have you know, a high value watch in your hands. I mean, the level detail we do with the glass, the level detail we do with the hands. I mean, we have hands with diamond cut facets on the side. So we have the same. We have applied indices in the for the ultra drive on the domed dial. We have domed dials. So we basically all the details we looked at. We try to do the best that's possible to elevate the design from the past to the current best possible. So that's
don't worry, time will tell. We remember
would be if I was a small brand where you don't know if we'd exist tomorrow, the other half of the people would complain about where should I get the spare parts then, you know. So that's why we have a very good movement. It's really well done. It's modified. We call it spiritual complication. And you have something that's going to be repaired and running for a long time. Yeah.
But I think it's very people overlook, Pietro. Sorry, is that you're not doing this to please all the people. It's exclusively. It's a business, and the business has to be sustainable, and it has to be able to pay for itself and allow itself to grow and expand. You know your costs, and you know the fact that you go to such lengths with. I'm sure getting the seconds wheel and the escape wheel laser engraved is not cheap, even though it's not something that people can see. It's still factored into the whole combination, the whole recipe that makes Sherpa Ultra Dive and makes Sherpa OPS watch what they are. And you know, sometimes I think people, yeah, as you said, they're very quick to criticize on the internet, and sometimes I wonder if you could do it cheaper, why don't you? You know,
there is an overarching contextualization that needs to be made on the fact that it's a concept. Sherpa watches, again, it's a watch for the outdoors. It has to be steady, it has to be reliable, it has to be strong, it has to be serviceable, like you just said, Martin, and you want it to be affordable. Now, Johnny, we have a fairly neutral view on what is available out there for £4,000 that, you know, can also offer an in-house made movement or something more, you know, sophisticated in a way. And there's not much really out there. So the price point helps contextualizing. And I think we posted today on Instagram, me actually with a Sherpa watch on my hand, on my wrist, and I really remember the clear feeling of thinking there is a lot of watch here for where you have decided to position the brand. So Martin, tell me, what is your philosophy in terms of I'm a middle class person myself. I always like taking the time on watches that can still give the pleasure of amazing quality at reasonable price point. So was this also a mission of yours to accomplish? Where are you seeing the brand developing in that respect in the future?
So yeah, I wanted to make an affordable watch. I mean, when I bring the watches back, I wanted to keep them affordable, and that's because also Enicar at that time, the Sherpa series was affordable, yeah, comparable to other watches. But of course, I also took the decisions. I didn't just want to take the design and bring everything from China, put in a Swiss movement, and then write some whatever Swiss made or made in Germany onto it, which is legit. You can do it. I don't complain about that. But I thought it wouldn't do them justice. And that's why I decided otherwise. And there I've got a price point, which is the result. But I think we still kept it in a reasonable manner. And what I want to do is, first, of course, I will be some some let's say, diversification of these two models. I will bring models with slightly different dial designs. And then I already have some models to follow up. Of course, let's say models also with a very similar case design. Some of them dive watches, some of them GMT models. These are my next models I would like to do.
Wow.
And then my dream would be to bring back the Sherpa graph series, which is of course a chronograph series. So there are many models to go before I have to start thinking what else I want to do, which is of course something in the back of my mind. What would I do when I don't want to bring back models or new versions of old models? But the first time I have enough models to go, and very interesting ones.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
When might we see? Is there anything scheduled for 2024?
Yeah, 2024 will be quite different. Maybe I went to many shows in the last 2 years, basically. I will reduce it a bit. I think I discovered the US in the last year. I think the US market is for brands like me very important. So I want to cater it a bit. I will go to San Francisco, will be the next big show where I'm, the Wind Up San Francisco, and then Wind Up New York. I will probably also go to the Watch Time Düsseldorf, which is the biggest show in Germany. I will be guerrilla marketing in Geneva, of course, like all small brands do. And then let's see the rest, when I get invited to Waterford again, I will be there. But,
yeah, just to let you know, there is no Festival of Time in Waterford this year, because we want to move it back to the May time slot that we started out with. And so because the 23 edition was in September, we all felt that having it in May 24 was literally 8 months later, and it was just too short a time.
Okay.
So May 25, you will be on the list. Fear not. So
Looking forward to that.
Now we can balance it with the Wind Up in San Francisco, because that seems to be in May. And
we're at end of May. So
yes,
look,
okay.
The calendar is becoming very, very busy anyway. And it was just that one or two of the people who are with us said that, September is kind of, you're getting into the pre-Christmas rush, and people are just back from their summer vacation. They have to get settled back in and get the orders out for Christmas. Also, there are a lot of big events towards the end of the year, and what with the GPHG Awards, the Dubai was on in 23. Yes. You have Geneva Watch Days. You have
the more the world is going virtual and digital, the more people are enjoying the events, and Festival of Time is definitely one of them we all look forward to. It's Martin, listen, it's been a great pleasure. I can't believe we've spent the best part of an hour, but I hope it was really valuable for our audience, and for you and for our audience, as it was for us. I think, Johnny, the more I dive into what Martin has been trying to achieve with Sherpa, and the more I look at the product, actually, quite simply, the more I am hooked. I hope we can integrate the new creations soon on our website on the limited edition. If you're interested in Sherpa watches, we are official retailers here in the UK, and we should be able now to answer all your questions and queries or requests for details. I know you may be watching this as a recorded episode, as it normally happens to 95% of the people connecting to us on YouTube. Feel free to send any question you may have or request of information from us or from Martin. We'll obviously make the link. And gentlemen, Johnny, Martin, thank you very much for your time today. I really enjoyed this. Thank you, Johnny, for putting this together. And let's hope we can do this once again soon.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been great to catch up with you again, Martin. And so we will definitely be looking forward to hopefully catching up with you again in Geneva in a few weeks' time, and to keep on top of the story as Sherpa continues to evolve. So yeah, Pietro, thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.